G'day, welcome to Torah Tuesday. Today we're dealing with Genesis 13 and 14. We're up to the part of Genesis that deals with the father of faith, Abram, or Abraham as he becomes known. And we get two stories today that you're probably less familiar with. Abram has become quite wealthy, and his nephew, Lot, is on the gravy train. He's also benefiting from Abram's wealth. And the reason that he's become wealthy is because he has the blessing from God. And part of that blessing in this part of the Bible is that he's blessed physically with with lots of cattle, lots of herds and flocks, and soon he'll be blessed with land. Um, but the land, it's isn't plenty enough to feed all Abram's animals and Lot's animals. So their shepherds and herders are quarreling with each other. Hey, this is my grass. Beat it. Go find some other grass. And so Abram comes to Lot and he says, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herders and mine, for we are close relatives." At this point, his closest relative is his nephew Lot. Um, and then Abram says, "Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. And if you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Now, notice that Lot is, at this point, he is riding Abram's gravy train. And he is the younger relative. He's the nephew. But Abram gives him the choice of the land. He says, "You take first pick." When we were kids, we would do this thing where if you were cutting the chocolate bar up, it would be I cut and you choose, and that way I would want to be very fair, so that we got even amounts. But this isn't I cut and you choose from Abraham. This is actually you cut and you choose. It's open slather. Take whatever you like is basically what Abraham's saying to his nephew. He's demonstrating great generosity to his nephew. Unnecessary, but great generosity. And Lot, as his name suggests, he takes the lot. This is what it says, verse 10. Lot looked around and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan towards Zoar was well watered, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. Now remember for a moment that the Middle East is mostly desert land, and the Jordan runs right down, I guess the Israelite Peninsula, and the land on either side of the Jordan, and especially toward the coast, is well watered because of the Jordan River. The Jordan is the thing that waters it well. So it's very plentiful, very luscious. He actually even compares it with the Garden of Eden. And so Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan, and he set out toward the east. The two men parted company. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain, and he pitched his tents near Sodom. The paragraph ends with this very ominous line. Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. We find out in chapter 18 what's actually going on in Sodom. But there's this ominous line here to say that Lot he's chosen the luscious land, but by choosing the luscious land, he's positioning himself in Sodom. And Sodom is not known for its good deeds or generosity. They are known for their sin against God. And God looks kindly on Abram's generosity. So he reiterates his promise to Abram, which you would have got in the middle of there. This is what he says. Look around from where you are, to the north and to the south, to the east and to the west. All of the land that you see I will give you and your offsprings forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go and walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you, he says. So Abram is going to inherit this land. And the chapter ends with Lot in the Jordan plain, luscious land, very fertile, and Abram in the less plush land of Canaan. But most importantly, Abram is worshipping God and living a generous life, while Lot has been like Adam and Eve. He has taken that which looked good for food, the land, and he finds himself living among sinners in Sodom as a result of that decision. And then we get chapter 14, which starts out with a war between these neighboring kingdoms, and it's all a little bit complicated. Lots of new names and kingdoms and cities that we've never heard of. But the rubber hits the road when we get to verse 12. Lot and all of Lot's possessions have been taken captive because he lived in Sodom. Do you see how Lot's short-term gain in choosing that land near Sodom is paying off in the long term? Sorry, it isn't paying off in the long term. You wait till you get to chapter 18. Things get very bleak. Anyway, Abram hears that his nephew is in trouble, and so being the generous and kind uncle that he is, he pulls together a little militia of 300 or so men, and he goes to retake Lot and Lot's possessions. It's the kind of uncle that everyone wishes they had. But the most interesting thing is what happens after that. On Abram's way home from regaining Lot and his possessions, he comes across a king who is also a priest. This man's name is Melchizedek. And Melchizedek brings out bread and wine for Abram. And we're told he is the king of Salem, which is the old name for the city of Jerusalem later in the Old Testament. And we find out that he is a king of God Most High, which is actually the same God that Abram worships. It's kind of strange, though, because currently there are no priests. At the time of Abram's life, there were no priests of God at this point. There was no temple, there's no tabernacle. That doesn't happen until later. There are some altars that Abram himself has set up, but presumably he is making the sacrifices on those altars. So there is no need for any priests. There isn't any priests until after the Israelites go to Mount Sinai, and God tells them that they should set up a sacrificial system, and he tells them how to do that, which we find out about in Leviticus and Exodus and Numbers. But even then, all the priests will be descended from Aaron. But Melchizedek, he can't be descended from Aaron. He's living generations before Aaron. In fact, we don't know anything about where Melchizedek descended from. Is he a descendant of Shem, of Ham, of Japheth? We don't find out. He has no heritage. But having said all of that, the story doesn't cast him as a shady character. He actually blesses Abram and is blessed by Abram, which is what God said would happen back in Genesis chapter 12. So who is this guy? That's probably the question that everyone's wondering about. Who is he? Well, actually, he's only mentioned one other time in the Old Testament, and that's in Psalm 110. There we find out that the Messiah, the anointed king to come, who was going to restore God's world, that king is also going to be a priest, and he's going to be a priest not from the line of Aaron, but from the line of Melchizedek. So this Messiah, who will be from the tribe of Judah, because that's the kingly tribe, is going to be a priest as well, but he's not going to be from the tribe of Aaron. He's going to be a priest in the line of Melchizedek. You may be even more confused now, but the New Testament picks up on this strange thing that's happening here, and it tells us that Jesus is that priestly king. He's not from the family of Aaron. He was from the tribe of Judah, and he is a priest in the order of Melchizedek, we find out. Because the thing is, we don't know anything about Melchizedek's family, his birth or his death. And so the writer of Hebrews, he says, we can imagine that Melchizedek is fulfilling his kingly duties his priestly duties for all of eternity. And so Jesus is also fulfilling his priestly duties for all of eternity. He stands in the throne room of God and supplicates and intercedes for us to God. He made a sacrifice that was once and for all for our sins. So through Jesus, who is the king but also the priest in the line of Melchizedek, we Christians can boldly approach the throne of grace, God's throne. We can approach it with confidence because we have Jesus as our great priestly king. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I find that all very strange, but this is the way that the Bible speaks about this man Melchizedek. In every season, at every age, in every glorious high and agonizing low, we can look to Jesus for mercy and find grace to help in times of need. Because Jesus forever reigns as the royal priest king who always lives to intercede for us. Have a good day.